Friday afternoon in Toronto. I'm May Potts. Pleased to welcome Tori Amos back to our studios. Tori avidly trying to work out this keyboard. It's funny because I remember the first time that you came here, the last time you came here, you and I started talking about how difficult it is to be a keyboard player on the road, and how, you can't really take all your own equipment with you, and you're kind of at the whim of what shows up at your gigs. And it's funny because today you've had something happen.
We got our wires crossed a bit.
Yeah.
That's all. Not us, but the always when you're dealing with equipment companies, it's hard because they have a middleman. Mm-hmm. Then there are two other people between me and them, so we never get to talk. And it gets hard just because what shows up sometimes isn't what you kind of thought it would be.
That's right.
But it's becoming an interesting challenge for me to see if I can make something not
make it work.
Yeah, make it work, just because I don't know this keyboard. I've never seen it before. And sorry, everybody out there, but it's not going to sound like a piano because... first of all, it's not a piano, and second of all, I don't really know how to make it sound like one. So you're going to get a mixed bag.
They're going to bear
things.
with us. I think that your audience understands the situation. At any rate, the last time that you were here, you performed in town, and I got to tell you, for days, I mean, maybe even weeks afterwards, I was getting phone calls from people who went to see your show, who were just raving, just so thrilled with your performance, and said if you ever came back, they would definitely come again and bring more friends to come and see you. So I just thought I'd pass that on from all the folks that were at your show the last time you played in Toronto.
We're coming again in '94. That's when the next record will be out. I have to go write it and record it now.
You were so busy. You were on like this whirlwind tour when you came through here, and I remember at that time asking you when you were going to get a bit of a break, and you said over Christmas. Did you actually take a little bit of a breather?
Well, I had a week, and then I had to finish the promotion for things started happening in France and a few other territories. So I had to go and do telly, and now this is my last stop. Toronto's the last in the promotional stops, just to say, see you soon, and I'm going to go eat now.
I'm going to go eat now, make some records, be back soon. Well, that's cool. The book is... actually, was surprising because I wasn't really sure what to expect. I thought at first when I heard people talking about that it was just a book of lyrics. I didn't understand that it would also be the music and thoughts about songs and inspiration.
Like little biographies of the songs. They all have little, I call them birth certificates, because that's what happens. Every time you write a song, you feel like you're having a baby. Not that I've ever had a baby, but... I go
it's your
through,
baby.
They're my babies.
Yeah.
I go through sometimes 3 years of labor with a song, and they interrupt lovemaking, eating. I mean, anything I'm doing. I'll be at a funeral, and a song wants to come in, and it's like, yeah, but I'm a happy song. And I'm going, yeah, but now's not the time to be happy. And it goes, yeah, but I'm coming now. They don't really have any kind of understanding of my other life. They just are very demanding.
Well, in that way, they are your babies. That's just like children.
I love them, though. I do. They're my buddies.
These kind of songbooks, did you, when you were younger, or maybe even now, do you buy songbooks? Do you still look at other artists?
Well, I had to play all this piano music, right? Because my father was a serious taskmaster about me practicing. And I got sick of playing classical music for 8 hours a day just because everybody else was playing it. That was in my classes. So you'd hear 10 people playing the same Debussy piece or the same Chopin piece, and I was bored out of my head. So I would go and get other music. I play everything pretty much by ear, but sometimes I couldn't figure stuff out. So I'd get these manuscript books and be really bummed out because it was just music thrown on a page, and a lot of times the music didn't sound like the record. And I really tried to take great care in making the music as close as I could to what was on the record and still have it playable for like beginning students. So it was a bit tricky.
This is, like you said, it's more than just the music on a page with this particular book. And there's photos and, like you said, the thoughts. And it actually makes it more of almost like an autobiography, this particular book, rather than just a straight songbook.
I wanted people to feel like they had an inside view of where the songs come from. And a lot of people are songwriters out there, and a lot of beginning players, I think, should work on their own stuff too. And I was hoping that it would encourage people to go inside themselves and understand the creative process. And it's not weird. Anything you want to do is not strange. And just because you can't sing on key doesn't mean anything. Neither could Bob Dylan. So what? I mean, I think that you have to start feeling like everybody deserves to express themselves. And if you want to musically, to develop a style is just to keep trying all sorts of things out, whether it's beating on pots or, you know, talking lyrics over chords and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to try and play for us now?
Well, we're going to try something.
Okay.
I'm going to play B-sides, imports from that. I don't know if it ever made it to North America, but in England I put songs that don't make the record as extra songs because, you know, they want a home too, those songs. So these are a few of those. This is called Upside Down.
Turn my little blue world upside down. Gotta love to turn my little blue world upside down. Inside my head the noise, a chatter, 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 chatter. You see, I'm afraid I'll always be still coming out of my mother upside down. Well, don't you love to turn this little blue girl upside down? Oh, I know you love to turn this little blue girl, baby, upside down. But my heart, it says, you've been shattered, 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 shattered. Oh, and I know you're still a boy, still coming out of your mother. But when you gonna stand on your own? I see the world is sick, you say. Tell me what that makes us, darling. You see, you always find my faults faster than you find your own. You say the world is getting rid of her demons. I say, baby, what have you been smoking? Well, I dreamed, I dreamed, I dreamed I loved a black boy. My daddy would scream, ooh, yeah. Don't you love to turn this little blue girl upside down? Well, any kind of touch I think is better than not even upside down. Oh, inside my head a voice, a chatter, 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 chatter. A Cincinnati, I like the word. It's the only thing we can't seem to turn upside down. Well, I found the secret to life. I found the secret to life. I'm okay when everything is not okay. I said I found the secret to life. I found the secret to life. I'm okay when everything is not okay.
we turn our little blue world upside down. I said, don't we love to turn our little blue world, baby, upside down. Inside my head a voice, chatter, 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 chatter. And it says, girl, you're all the same, still coming out of your mother's, still coming out of your mother's, upside down.
Tori Amos here at CFNY Studios. Tori, that's beautiful.
I mixed up the words, I'm sorry, but some people will know.
Yeah, those who have those B-sides.
Yeah, they know.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about early childhood recollections and thinking about how difficult it is sometimes to remember things from the very early years of your life. And I was thinking how music had been a real part of your life from a very early point. Do you remember what what's your earliest musical recollection? That's a tough one, I know.
I saw this big black piano in my father's study. It was massive. And I looked up and I said, hi. And I really wanted to become friends with it. And it looked so foreboding. Because, I mean, it was huge. It was one of those old uprights. And I just crawled up on the stool and decided to become best friends. And that's the first thing I remember. And I remember my mother putting telephone books under me so that I could, first of all, reach the keys. And I couldn't reach the pedals forever. So, you had to let a few things slide.
Yeah. That's funny because my parents also had one of those in the dining room, a great big old piano. And I remember sitting there, going in there and pretending I could play. I was putting on massive concerts. And I just wonder how my parents put up with that. They never put me into lessons. It must have been really bad.
Well, I had a really good time without having lessons. Sometimes lessons can mess you up. It really depends who your teacher is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people tell you can teach yourself a lot of stuff, especially if you work on your ear. And that's what I did. I play records, anything. My mother had a record collection, so I played anything I could get my hands on and tried to imitate it. And what became the biggest influence were guitar players for me.
Is that right?
It's right. I didn't want to steal from all the other piano players. Right. So nobody could tell where I was stealing from when I listened to guitar players.
Ah, do you remember what first record you bought that you wanted to go out and learn to play?
Well, the Beatles was the big thing. John Lennon was a big influence. There was a Doors record that got snuck in the house, and my father made it leave. And I said to him, "But Dad, he looks like Jesus." And he said, Mary, get this out of here." My dad's a minister, so he had a real hard time with Jim Morrison. As did most fathers.
I think so.
Yummy. Yeah, Jim and Robert Plant. As girls, I remember Jim had already died by the time Jim had died when I was like 6 or 7, so this hadn't quite crossed my mind, although it did, but I hadn't figured it out yet. But by the time I was 10, it was definitely crossing mine and my friend's mind, like who we were going to give it to.
Right.
The first time. And Robert was like the guy we wanted to initiate us. We wanted to like do one of these, go to the Stones and see this guy. We'd all, share Robert. We weren't going to
be greedy about it or anything.
And that he could initiate us, and then he could leave and we could all have like popcorn and stuff.
That sounds like a great idea. Sounds like it was a good fantasy.
Yeah, I told him when I met him, and he wanted to know how old I was. So
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. If you were about 6 or 7, okay, when I'm thinking now about your teen years, we're maybe looking at about the 70s, some point in the late 70s, early 80s.
75.
75. Okay. Now, at that time, there was when I think back about the 70s, there was a lot of stuff budding up in music. I guess this has always been the case, but when I think of prominent musical directions popping up, there was the progressive rock kind of scene. There was a lot of disco, if I remember rightly. There was also
Punk.
Were you into any one of those scenes to any great degree?
I was...
Or a little bit of all?
What I was a student of anything I could get my hands on. So I've never been like a part of a movement because then that discards the other movements. But I would try and really when I was listening to punk or when I was listening to jazz or when I was listening to bar talk or whoever I was listening to, I would immerse myself in that world because, you know, punk isn't cooler than bar talk, isn't cooler than, you know, Gershwin, isn't cooler than Oscar Peterson, isn't cooler than Jimi Hendrix. You know, nobody is cooler than anybody else. If you think that, what it is your opinion is just you happen to like them, but that doesn't mean that they're cooler than the next person. In their field, these people were geniuses in their field. And if you really want to be a student of music and to honor, jazz isn't something that is doesn't personally make my tummy go, but I can really respect those that do it well. And it's changed my playing style. It's made me a more interesting player because my vocabulary has changed because I've listened to different kinds of music. I mean, I'll put on Sonic Youth as fast as I'll put on, you know, any classical player back to back to see, well, what can I learn from listening to these different things? And it changes you forever as a player.
You seem to be very much into continuing the learning process.
All the time. You become really boring if you don't. You know, all you are is a repeat. You just repeat anything that goes inside you. I feel like to develop your own thoughts and your own expression, you go to all these different categories of expression. And that's also reading. That's also novels, reading poets. And a lot of times I'll go look at painters. I've been looking at a lot of painters lately. And Agnes Martin is a woman that I've been looking at. She's real subliminal. And I'll just stare for hours. Sometimes it's just a whole wall filled with one color. And I'll just sit there, and it's amazing the thoughts that come because it's a different medium. So when you go to a different medium, it helps your medium. And you don't steal. And that's important to not become, you know, exactly like somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to play for us again? Because I think we'd love to hear another song.
Yeah, I'm going to do another B-side, and I have to find my program, everybody.
Okay.
Now, this might be a bit silly, but...
While you're doing that, I'm just going to remind folks that Tori Amos this afternoon between 5 and 6:30 is going to be at HMV 333 Yonge Street, and you're going to be signing copies of your Little Earthquake songbook, which is more than a songbook.
And you can just come say hi if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay, too. So, let's try this. Crush your fingers.
Okay.
Don't say morning's come. Don't say it's up to me. If I could take 25 minutes out of the record books and sugar, he brings me sugar. Bobby's collecting bees, and a hammers he used one on me. Yeah, Cold War with little boys, get in with the bubblegum trade. And sugar, bring me sugar. No, the robins bring me many things, but sugar, it brings me sugar. As far as I can tell, I've been gone for miles now. And you know, and I know, I don't know me very well. And I know, and you know, if they found me out here. If they find you out, what do you think them to do?
Tori Amos here at CFNY. It always is so exciting to watch you perform, and you sound great. I don't know. I don't know much about keyboards, but you, Tori, sound wonderful.
Well, it's a bit tricky because I've never done this before, but I didn't want to not play because I felt like that was crapping out. So
well, we're glad that you're playing.
You try
yes.
and you just go, well, we'll see what this happens here.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, if it's all right with you, is open up the phone lines and let some of the listeners call in and ask a question of Tori. We also have some Tori Amos Little Earthquake songbooks that are much more than songbooks to give away on the air. So 870-EDGE, first couple callers through, we'll take your name, give you a songbook. Maybe you can even autograph it for them. Okay, we'll get them autographed, and you'll also talk to Tori in just a few moments. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. CFNY 102.1, I'm May Potts, and joining us in the studios here, Tori Amos. And Tori, we're going to go to the phones now. We've got a couple people standing by to ask you some questions. I think first we've got Mike up on the line. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. What would you like to ask Tori?
I'm just wondering what inspired that song.
Sugar?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, we're in Toronto, so nobody can hear us that's in England or
right.
America. Okay, I met somebody that was changing my idea of relationships. Like, why do you have to be in just one?
Mm-hmm.
And it was tearing me to pieces because I couldn't be in both relationships. And this guy made me a cup of tea, and he forgot that I took sugar in it. And it really hurt my feelings because after all I'd shared with him and how many cups of tea have I had with this person, and he forgot that I took sugar in my tea. And that sounds like a little thing to you, Mike.
The little things in life, but they count.
But it was like, well, wait a minute. Which girl did you think I was that didn't take sugar? Because this wasn't like I've never done this with this person before, had a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
And the English make tea, so they should know what they're doing as far as the tea thing. If this would have been the American, we could have let him slide on this because they don't know what they're doing with tea anyway. But he did, and he didn't know, and it made me so mad. And I wrote the song, and I recorded it like within an hour of when this happened, and that's that song.
Yeah, because it was a really beautiful song, and I really like your work. I'm a musician myself. I play guitar.
Oh, well, I might steal from you. I steal from all guitar players.
Really want to steal from me? Go for it.
So guitar players, beware of Tori.
Yeah, Jimmy Page is like, he knows when I'm around. He's like, I'm not going to play you my new lick story because...
Well, Mike, thanks for your call. And Tori's going to assign a book for you. We've got the Little Earthquakes songbook here from Tori Amos, and maybe you can share with her, too. We won't say stealing. You guys can share.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Mike. We're going to now talk to Pauline. Hi, Pauline.
Hi there.
How are you today?
Not too bad, thanks. How
Good.
are you?
I'm just fine. Doesn't Tori sound great?
Yes, absolutely fabulous, regardless of the piano keyboard situation.
Thanks, Pauline.
Yeah, it sounds great. I had a question, just to get your opinion. How you feel about, the using of, I don't know how specifically to describe it, but I'll call it, a classical voice or a very pure, sort of untainted voice behind pop music, either like via samples or whatever is happening today. Do you think it devalues it at all?
What, using...
like there's been some examples, and I won't name any singers or bands that have done it, but, samples of certain singers who are very accomplished in their own fields, and I think take a lot of pains to get there, and it's been sampled in pop music. How do you feel about that?
Well, that's a real big war that's going on right now. They don't mind if they're used, okay? Mm-hmm. But, because I know one of them that has been used, who's very, very well known.
Right.
And they feel like, though, that if they've been used and have helped the song become what it is, then they should get credit for it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these bands sell millions of records, right, the sampling, and don't give credit to the person that they've taken from.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of kidding when I talk about stealing, because I don't believe in stealing. I think people inspire each other and stuff.
Right.
But I think when you do steal, then you've really crossed a serious line. Now, when you do, especially rip and take it direct off a record, there are laws that if you do it X amount of notes, X amount of measures, then you have to give credit to the person that you've taken it from. And that's only right. So that's my feeling about it.
But you don't feel that it devalues it just because it's another sort of, musical vein or expression?
I don't think it devalues. I mean, people could think I devalue Nirvana. People could think that anytime you do a cover or whatever you do, that you're not showing respect to the artist. But once you put a song out there, it's really public property.
Right.
We could go in a Marriott tonight, and you know how many people are going to be singing Smells Like Teen Spirit? You're going to have these guys in like paisley tops going, "With the lights out, it's less dangerous."
Or a reggae version.
Yeah, I mean, anything. And, you have to, toss it out there and say, hey, it's kind of public property now. But if somebody records it, then they just need to respect who it came from. That's all.
I just found that I've just been taking some sort of classical training for voice training, and it seems that from that whole perspective sometimes that they have a different viewpoint.
Yeah, but what do they know?
Yeah.
Let me
that's
tell you
what I
something
thought.
about the classical people. They have a rug up their butt,
Yeah.
a broom actually, because they can't make a living and they have to teach.
Yeah.
And they told everybody how to sing and how to do it, and nobody can make a living doing it.
Well, it's a refreshing change, I must say, to hear your music, because it's a great blend. So.
I'm always arguing with these classical people, you know.
I know.
Do you know
So-
the funny thing is, too, from my standpoint, and the point that I thought that you were getting at, Pauline, was that maybe for somebody in classical would think that their music or their voice was too worthy for a pop song or popular song. Let's not forget that pop just stands for popular. And I think that pop artists can also go through great angst in attempts to write good songs, and they also work very hard. So I think it doesn't devalue, because I think that it depends on what value you personally put on popular or classical music.
Well, there's a bit of spoiled grapes going on
Yeah,
from
I
the
think
classical.
so.
Anything that isn't happening, well, they get angry. It's just like let's be honest about it. They're bummed out because people aren't going to see them. And that's what it is. And they try and devalue everybody else.
By cross-pollination like that, maybe some people may get more into go seeing classical or whatever they may have discovered through whatever means. I mean, it was only through jazz fusion that I discovered jazz.
There are people out there that are doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nigel, Nigel the
Kennedy, yeah.
He's really excited a lot of people who wouldn't have been into that kind of music.
Although he was scorned for doing that too, going from classical to pop.
But
and
of
stuff.
course he was, because they have, if you don't have the most expensive wine sitting on the piano and have your stinky cheese and stuff, then they feel like you aren't part of the club. Well, who wants to be part of their club anyway? As I've said, those guys are dead. They're under the ground. The worms have eaten them. If Debussy, Mozart were alive, they'd be going to a Ministry concert. Everybody knows that next.
So stay in your old stinky cheese club.
Exactly.
Anyway, Pauline, we're going to give you also a little Earthquakes Tori Amos book, and Tori, I'm sure we'll sign that for you too. Thanks for hanging on the line.
Thanks so much.
We've run out of time. Tori, thanks again so much for coming by.
May.
It's so much fun having you here. And you're coming back, when, 94?
Yeah, got to write the record, make it, eat a lot of food, get some wolf bites, and then come back and play.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to news with Anita Cartelia in just a second. I do want to remind folks that today, between 5 and 6:30, you can catch Tori Amos at 333 Yonge Street. That's the big HMV store downtown.
Thanks, May.
Thank you, Tori. Cheers.